Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Tonight I'm talking to Sean Connolly. Start that again. I'm a bit nervous, to be honest.
Yeah.
Honestly, I get really nervous before I do these. I'm shit at it.
No.
I'll start that again. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Tonight I'm talking to Sean Connolly. Tonight he's going to give us a history of his service in the career and also talk about the books that he's written since he left. Hi, Sean. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Absolutely made up to be here, Andrew. Brilliant.
Thanks very much. If you'd just like to basically go over where you grew up, why you joined the army, and basically what made you pick the artillery and stuff like that.
You'll be able to relate to these stories, but quite a lot of friends have probably had a similar background, but grew up in Southport. I was actually born in Preston, but grew up in Southport in the early 70s, mid 70s. And it was one of those childhoods where you just want to get away from home. Your dad was a disciplinarian. Every time you looked at him, you got a clip round the ear, or much worse. And I joined the Army Cadets. I think the age of joining the Army Cadets then was 13, but I told a bit of a porky and joined at 12. So I got 4 years of Army Cadets behind me, which was so valuable. And then I joined the Army at 16, primarily to get away from home and get away from my dad. But I think it was something, because my dad actually served in the Burma campaign, I think it was something really it was more than that. I think it was in me to join the army, and nothing else would enter my head. I know people had a number of careers that they perhaps wanted to pursue, but it was always the British Army for me, I'm afraid. Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
So what year was that, sorry, that you joined?
So I joined 12th September 1978. And you'll know, junior leaders, Gamecock Barracks in Bramcote, in Nuneaton.
Yeah.
It was the biggest ever intake into the Royal Artillery. It was 900 soldiers on that one intake. And all the permanent staff were under strict instructions to get it down to 200 when we passed out. So they had to get rid of 700 of us.
Wow.
We started off with a troop of 54 and passed out with 12 6 weeks later.
Jesus.
And, as much as I hate to say it, there was a lot of bad stuff, that was sent our way to dissuade us from staying in the army. But because of my background, it didn't matter what they did to me. I wasn't going home. The thought of going home it just never entered my head, and I was one of the lucky ones who managed to see it through. But even in junior leaders, saw some nasty stuff, really bad stuff, and I don't know what we can and can't say on your podcast, but there was some pretty horrific stuff going on.
To be perfectly honest, mate, you can say whatever you want. The thing is with that, the second podcast I did with my brother, and he went to the junior apprentice college at Chepstow.
Yeah.
So he joined the engineers, and he touched on it there. And as much as we think back of, when we were in training, I joined junior leaders in '85, and I was really lucky, I think, because I've heard lots of stories of other people, and everyone says, no, there was no bullying going on. It was just a bit of banter and character building. And I was lucky in our troop, there probably wasn't any. There was a bit of mix up between the boys and stuff like that. But from the DS, the two sergeants, and then the third one we had come in, there was nothing like that. But we heard rumours about other places and stuff.
Well,
and
racism,
guys and stuff. There was lots of it.
Yeah, and racism was nasty, and I watched. You got to remember, we're 16 years old, aren't we? We're kids, and I watched a 16-year-old Pakistani lad in front of me get his ear bitten off right in front of my eyes, by DS. So, you see some things, and that was only one of many things. I wrote a bit of a plug here. I wrote my first book many years ago, but I needed to write the second book because it's I didn't mean it to blow the lid off what went on in junior leaders, but it does, the reader comes away thinking, oh my God, surely that didn't happen, but it did. surrogate fathers. It's aptly named because obviously the British Army becomes your father once you leave the fold. So there's a lot of those stories in that book, and some of them are nasty. Some of them, when you think back, some of them were just wrong, weren't they? But hey ho, we're here today. We're still breathing.
Yeah, I mean, even just saying, it was 1978. I mean, it was a different time even from when I joined.
Yeah.
I mean, you touched on the racism there.
Yeah.
I didn't really see any when I was there. I mean, but then again, my troop was all white, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really, say if it
You
was
know,
or was not.
I'm painting a bad picture here. It wasn't bad. That year at Junior Leaders was an absolutely amazing year.
Yeah.
And I joined the PT display. I know you're probably thinking how, but we're talking 45 years ago. But
Yeah, I was going to say.
yeah, I joined the PT display for, well, then a bit of a laugh, I suppose. We did 26 displays around the country, finishing with the Edinburgh Tattoo. So I got to do the Edinburgh Tattoo for a month. And at 16 years old, before you go to your regiment, that was just fantastic, for a kid to do. And where else would you get those opportunities? And like what I said earlier, joining the cadets for 4 years, that really stood me in good stead for when I got to Junior Leaders. My God, I took less beatings around the head because I could march a little bit. I knew a little bit of field craft. You could do a bit of this, a bit of that, so you could pull boots, so you had that bit of a head start, I think. And do you know what? Junior Leaders was fantastic. Just went a little bit above character building, I think, some stages, but on the whole, it was a bloody good experience. I
mean, biting someone's ear is a bit as well
as
character building, isn't it?
It
but
was
then again, I mean, like I said earlier, it's not an excuse to say that it was a different time, but it very much was a different time, and people have changed since then.
I mean that the last story in that same book, it is in that book. It's and I won't tell you what it is on here, but it's a horrific story. It's a true story, and what I do a lot with my stories, I hear a story that's happened in the British Army, and I'll pinch the story and put it into me and my regiment, or my battery. And there was a horrific story about this sergeant ended up having sex with his daughter accidentally. Believe it or not.
I've heard them stories.
Yeah. So I pinched that story and put that into the book, and it just made for a good finish for that particular book.
Yeah, it's like I mean, some people call them urban myths. Can't say whether they're true or not, but we'd all heard them type of stories and everything like that. I mean, I heard that one there, and then the other ones where troop sergeants were kicked out because they'd been. I thought it can't have been true. We got told there was a troop sergeant in the previous intake who got kicked out because the lads had given him a leave present, which was a nice plant, for his windowsill in his office, and it turned out it was marijuana, and they got caught with it. So whether that's another true one or not, it's just. But the stories are great. You know what I mean? You enjoy them type of thing.
Well, we had the F870 and one of the guns, and we did the trials on the F870, but we had this F870. It was a horrible gun because it was outside. It was horrendous. It was always getting bogged in. Tri-national gun. There was nothing good about this gun, right? And
I loved it.
Oh, I flipping hated it. And anyway, the story, you'll know this story. The story came out about the dog up the barrel.
Yeah.
The general's terrier up the barrel.
Yeah,
So
I'm
having that story, and I put it into one of my books, and I weaved it in really well, and the amount of people, I'll get phone calls and texts of people saying, please tell me they didn't put a dog up the barrel. And I said, they did. It was a true story that they fed a dog up the barrel. It was biting everybody, and it, according to the troops, it had to go. And they just don't believe it. So.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first ones I had when I got my regiment. It was that type of thing. When you all sat around on a private smoker and stuff like that. Yeah, I was like, what? Really?
Now I was a gun number one you know yourself in a turreted gun like the M109, you've got to keep it all nice and clean inside, because if anything gets in the way of that turret race ring, it gets eaten up, and it doesn't matter what it is. And I used to say to my crew, if I find anything in the turret, any personal items, it's going down the barrel. And believe it or not, cigarettes, SMG magazines, live 9mm rounds, watches, washing and shaving kits. And they came in while I was feeding a sleeping bag. I found the sleep bag left in the turret. I was feeding that up the barrel, you know. Anyway, they rescued it away from me, but it was going up the barrel. So the amount of things that did actually go down the barrel was quite amazing. Just good, great stories, you know.
So when you left juniors, what regiment did you go to?
Yeah, so let me tell you what happened there, because it's quite funny. My sister, we did a display in Southport, the PT display team, and my sister came to see me, obviously, and one of the other troops who was doing, he was just like a guard of honour, if you like called Stan. He was in our regiment. He was a lot older than me. He was in 40 Field Regiment. Remember, I was still in junior leaders then.
Yeah.
And anyway, he started going with my sister. And so I met him, I met him at this PT display team. She introduced me to him, and he said, "Oh, I'm in 40 Field Regiment." He was a Geordie, this lad. And I said, "Oh, right." He said, I'll claim you to the regiment if you want when you finish your training." You know, I didn't have a clue what he was talking about. 16 years old, and that. So yeah, okay, yeah, sound. You know. Anyway, when they come to read your regiment out, Connolly, you're going to 40 Field Regiment. A guy, a bombardier there, Stan Johnson, he's claimed you. And I went, right, okay. Where is it? Gutterslow. What's Gutterslow? You know, Germany. That's like abroad. You know, you're 60. Well, just nearly 17 I was. In fact, just 17, I think. So anyway, I ended up in Gutterslow. Get to the regiment, when my suitcases, put them down, you know, at the guard room. Could I speak to Stan Johnson, please? Oh, he left the army last month. So he left the army. I'm there in 40 Field Regiment on my own. Knew nobody now because he's left.
Yeah.
And thankfully there was my number's 24502427. There was a lad in junior leaders, Cox, his name was. Chris Cox. His number was 24502428. He was one after me.
Yeah.
And he ended up in 129 Battery in 40 Field Regiment. And other than that, I didn't know a soul. So that was it.
So there's something else we've got in common. So when I was leaving juniors, everyone was getting the regiments. As you know, when they say, "What put down your preferences now?" And I don't even think I put anything down. If I did, I can't remember. But they read the names out and they said to me, "Done. You're going to 47." I was like, "Where are they at?" Gutterslow. I was like, "Where's Gutterslow?"
Yeah, that's right. They took over from us 47, I think.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Just going back though. You know, as a kid, 15 years old, I went to the Army Careers here to do, you know, you do your selection test. Well, the selection test then was like, here's 3 matches, we've taken away 2, how many's left? You know, that type of selection. Can you put a cross in that box? That's it, you're in the Army. Well done, lad. Yeah. So they said to me, you've got the paras, or I wanted to join the REME, you see. And he said, no, you can't join the REME, you're too thick, right? So I said, well, what's left? He said, you've got the paras. Well, I knew from the cadets, right, what the paras were. And he said, so you've got artillery. And I went, I ain't jumping out of that airplane, not a chance. And he said, well, it's artillery. I said, well, what's artillery? He said, the big guns. I said, oh, I'll have some of that. And that's how I ended up in the artillery.
What did you think of getting to your regiment after you'd been to juniors then? How did you find that?
Daunting. I remember that feeling, to be honest. Very daunting. And the battery, 3A battery, just moved into, because you know Mansa Barracks, you'll know that as you're going through the main gate, the first accommodation after the first turning was that was 3A battery, and they just built new flats, or flatlets they called them, didn't they? So I was thrown into one of them. The BQMS Staff Sergeant, Dave Sumter, who was one of the first guys, lovely guy, really nice, told me to relax a little bit, and I'm not at junior leaders anymore. It's really, really good. And he set me up in this room with this lad. He said, make sure you look after him. And anyway, he was a decent lad. Anyway, a lad called Gary Tantony from Woolwich, who I've never been able to find to this day, but I think from day one, we just had a ball. We just started having a ball. And I was an absolute irresponsible hooligan over there in Gutterslow, really was. And it's like eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah.
And again, some of those stories are in my very first book. I've put some of those stories in there,
I'll put links to the books in the show notes, because I know some people want to look them up and everything like that. So was it British Army, the Rampage?
Yeah, British Army and the Rampage. I know you can't see this because you won't have any. And then there's, if you go to armynovels.com, that's my website where all the books are. They're on Amazon anyway, but if you look at armynovels.com, it's got photos and everything. And the idea of that is, if any other troops want to put their books on that website, I wouldn't charge them, obviously, but quite a few of the troops have written books, so if anyone wants to put them on that, because it's a good website, armynovels.com. It's
right,
a
I'll
good
put that in as well. I'll make a note of that.
Yeah. So yeah, they if anyone wants to put any books, anyone on your podcast who are selling their books wants to get in touch with me, they can do. Get me on FaceAche and we can set them up and put the books in there.
Yeah, I'm sure if they're interested, they will do.
Wouldn't
so how
charge
did you progress to start with in 40 Field then?
Yeah, do you know what? It went well from the word go. You know yourself, you're very fit. You're at the fittest you've been in your life. I took a liking to the way of life. I couldn't believe you knocked off at 4:00 in the evening. The time was your own, You didn't have to do bed blocks and lockers and bulling floors. I was like, flipping heck. And they were taking me here, there and everywhere. And I just slumbered into it very well, I thought. And I loved Gutterslow. I think that's one of the best postings in Germany, or it was anyway for us. And like I said, we were a bit naughty. We got up to a bit of mischief, but who didn't over there?
I think it was SOPs that you had there.
Yeah. And they while we were there, they drained that river behind the camp, and it was a mountain of push bikes, German push bikes.
I'm laughing because they did exactly the same. So when we swapped with 2.6 Reg, as we were leaving, we were using caustic soda on the garage floors to clean them.
Oh, we did that.
The Germans came along and said, hey, can't do that. That's rather naughty because you're poisoning the fish in the canal. And they had to drain the canal. And that little bridge that was up the main drag, either side of that, there was just bikes everywhere.
Oh, it was amazing. Absolutely fantastic. And I did a stint in the Battery Bar, and I didn't have a car at the time. I only got a car the next time I was on leave. I took my test straight away within a few weeks of being there. Fallingbostel, took my test, on the cobble roads. And anyway, past that. And anyway, mate of mine had a Mark 1 Escort, an old Mark 1 Escort. And I had to go to the Naffy place, the wholesale place in Gutterslow, to get the barrels of beer, And I remember I picked these 3 barrels up. I could get 2 inside on the back seat. Didn't know what to do with the third one. Thought, I'll just put it in the boot, And then I'm driving back to camp. As I'm steaming along, I was only doing about 50 miles an hour. The back of the car just went like that, jumped up, And I went, what the heck? And I looked in my mirror, and there's this barrel of beer bouncing down the road like that, and it had gone through the boot, and the car had carried it, and it was back, like the dam busters. And I just saw this thing catching me up through the window. And I went, oh my God. Anyway, it stopped at the side where I stopped. And I looked, opened the boot, and I went, oh my God. And it just wrecked the boot. There was a hole like that, Anyway, got back to camp, unloaded the beer at the bar, drove round to the garages, Boydie, there's your keys. Thanks, mate. Cheers. I just walked off and never told him. And it was only about 2 months later, he come back to me and goes, "You bastard, what have you done to me, cuz?" What? Oh, just fantastic times. Really good. Yeah.
What tours and that did he do in that time before?
Look, I missed Northern Ireland because
Right.
they were in Northern Ireland when I got there.
Oh yeah.
Most of the regiment, there was quite a few left back, but most of them were in. And I just did the normal ones, Canada a few times, Belize. That's about it, really, you know.
I never really got to go to Belize. I was quite disappointed
Oh,
with that.
mate. Well, that is that book. That is British Army on the Rampage. That book, you know, is and going back to what you said earlier on, you know, you wanted to be a little bit different with your podcast. I was the same with that first book I wrote. I thought everyone's writing about the SAS, everyone's writing about special operations and killing people and you know, which is fair enough. You know, if that's what they've done, that's what they've done. I'm not slagging them down, but I wanted to. There's a guy called Ken Wharton who was in our regiment. Have you ever heard of him? He's an author of hardback books.
The name rings a bell. I don't know why.
He only ever writes about Northern Ireland.
Right.
And people say to me, why don't you write about Northern Ireland? I say, well, it's not my scene. Mine are more funny and humour, you know. But he lives in Australia now.
Yeah.
And he's probably never going to come back. But I wanted to write about somewhere different. Now, at the time when I looked, nobody had written a book about Belize. And the stuff that goes on in Belize, it would have just been a sin to miss it, you know. So I said, that's the place I'm going to write it. So what happened is, David Richardson, the guy I was telling you about, the TV director, we used to sit round for lunch every Sunday, and he said, "You need to write a book about your army times." And I said, I wouldn't have a clue. How do I know how to write a book? He said, "I'll help you." He said, "I've got a mate, HarperCollins Publishers, and we'll if you put a chapter together, we'll send it and see what they think." So I said, "Well, I wouldn't have a clue how to put a chapter together." He said, I'll help you." So he helped me put I wrote the first chapter. He sent it away, and before you know it, they sent a message back saying he's got to finish this book. You know, well, I didn't have a book. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clue. So, but one thing I do remember is I said to them, "How big has this book got to be?" And they said, "A book is as big as a book is." So anyway, off I went, and I started typing this, and it ended up 1,000,000 words, right? That's only 2/3 of the original book, right? So I gave it to them. They went, "What the hell's that?" I said, "You said a book is as big as a book is," and they went, "It's too big." I said, "Well, you said." I did ask it, and you said, and they went, "No, it's too big." So I ended up taking it away, and I ended up writing my first fiction book from it, which is based in Leith in Edinburgh.
Right.
Because you know, I said I did the Edinburgh tattoo.
Yeah.
Well, we also went back in '84 and did the gun race. So I had a month in Edinburgh doing the gun race with the F870s. So I got to know Edinburgh very well and Leith and all around there. So that's my first fiction book. My nickname was Sledge in the army. So that's Sledge's first I threw a hammer at someone and broke his leg. I didn't mean to do it. Well, I didn't mean to throw it at him. I didn't mean to break his leg. So they called me Sledge, and so that's the first book in the fiction.
Yeah.
You know, was and so but no one had written a book in Belize, so I thought I'll get in there before. Anyway, no sooner as I'd done it, what's his name? He's on Amazon now. Somebody Ed Nugent, I think his name is. Good writer, you know, but no sooner as I released mine, about a year later, he'd written about Belize and after me, you know. So, and I believe a couple of other people have. But what a place to put stories down for.
So when you were at Belize, the tours there, was that still when it was active duty?
Yeah, so he's just stopping the Guatemalans coming into Belize. They were a nasty bit of work, and they were just there for that reason, really. And a lot of observation posts on the border and what have you, and but a lot of exercises as well. With the 105 light gun. Oh dear! But if you're into soldiering, it is the place. Well, the SAS do a lot there, don't they? But it is the place. But when you're just there for a tour for 6 months, you just want to. It's so hot and dry. You just want to get out the place, But when you look back on it years later, it was priceless. It was amazing, absolutely amazing tour. And I was also trained as a special ops medic as well over there.
Yeah,
because I've been teaching first aid since just after junior leaders. I'm a paramedic now as well. Yeah. So that's not my job, but I'm a trained EMT paramedic as well. So I've been involved with that side of it for years. So I did that out there as well, and that was mega interesting. Seeing your mates with beef worms hanging off their heads and all sorts was quite amazing. Stuff you don't see in day-to-day soldiering back in the UK or in Germany. It was just an amazing arena to do some good soldiering.
So how long did it take you to progress up to being a gun number one then?
Well, funny old thing, I was only full screw. I wasn't sergeant. Should have been. They had to make me acting sergeant for Canada because you can't be a full screw for Canada gun number one. You've got to be a sergeant.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, it's a really good point because it caused a lot of controversy. That I was on a cadre course within a year of being in the regiment.
Was that one of the lines? Was it or Abbott?
It was Abbott.
Yeah, Abbott, yeah.
Abbott's. I was a lance jack within 2 years, and I was a full screw within about 4 or 5 years.
That's good going in them days, right?
Yeah, with my advanced gunnery under me belt and everything, and I went away and did the DMI driving instructor's course and everything as well.
Yeah.
You know what it's like. You come into the battery lines, all the courses are up on the notice board, aren't they? And you just put the names down for the ones that you want to do. Well, I just used to put my name down for every single course. and, didn't matter. Did you ever do a church house course in Senegal?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Yeah. Even that, any course, I would put my name on. My CV now it's unbelievable. It's stood me in good stead, for when I left the army. And, as you know, all the security qualifications and everything, and you're halfway there just being in the army, aren't you?
Yeah, true.
So, but I did really well. But what killed it was Hona. Hona killed my career, We came back to the UK for 5 or 6 years, Colchester, which was a good posting, really good posting. And then they fired us out to Hona. I managed about 4 years there, and I said, you were just going on exercise, coming off exercise, washing the guns, going back on exercise, coming back, washing the guns, and like that all the time. And it was at the time that they were getting these 17-year-old officers fresh from Sandhurst, telling old sweats who'd been in the army 25 years how to do their job, and it was causing a lot of problems. And I thought, do you know what? I've got a chance to leave the army, make a career in something else. So I thought, I'll take it,
So when did you leave?
Oh my God. Let me see. So I joined in 78. So it must have been 92 or 3 or something like that. I did about 12 and a bit, I think, years, something like that.
So did you miss out on the Gulf then?
I missed out, yeah. And do you know what? Half the reason, I don't think I've ever told anyone this before, but it's no secret, but half the reason, no, not half, part of the reason I left the army is nothing was happening. There was no conflicts on. The day the Fultons kicked off, we were flying out to Belize. So April 1982, we're going out to Belize. Suddenly, the Fultons what's the Fultons? Oh, there's trouble. The British Army did it. I went, what? Oh, you're having a laugh, aren't you? 137 battery, who were doing all the hot weather training to take over from us in the October in Belize.
Yeah.
They got shipped off to the Falklands. So they've done all this hot weather training and ended up in the Falklands in the freezing cold.
That's normally the case, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because it's so Falklands kicked off, then all the other conflicts that's happened since, and like I said, one of the reasons I left was nothing was happening. I wanted to go and be a soldier and do something, but nothing happened.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The first part of my early times in the army, I mean, I did an island tour of the Maze.
Yeah.
And then the next big thing that happened was the Gulf War. We went out there as battle casualty replacements. Coming back from that, and then it was nothing for a while, and then Bosnia kicked off, and then it just got really busy from then on. I mean, from Bosnia to me getting out in 2012.
Yeah.
There was something happening all the time. There was people going there. I did 2 tours of Bosnia, 2 tours of Ireland, went out to Iraq twice, and stuff like that. Loads of overseas exercises. Somewhere where it was warm and sandy, funny enough. So it's as if they were planning something beforehand. We were doing exercises in Oman and Jordan and places like that before 2003. Weirdly, so you're just when you think back, you think, did they have this planned all along?
Yeah. Did you ever do that sight guard in Senalaga?
I did this. I never did the big ones where the Americans were. I did the small one.
Oh, God almighty. That's soul destroying, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And when I look back, I think, Jesus, how the hell did we get through that? That was soul destroying, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it just a lot of just staggering on. Yeah.
I wouldn't change a thing. I really wouldn't. And, a lot of the people who I've remembered in my books and dedicated some of them to my book in my books are dead now. They passed away from sergeant majors down to gunners, and I'm glad I've done that because I've got them to remember.
Yeah.
My only regrets when I came out of the army is I had 2 regrets, and I mean this. I was so fit while I was in the army; it was unreal. And my biggest regret was not having to go for the SAS. That was the first one. And then my second one was not trying to join the police when I came out. I wouldn't join it now, but then it was a different ball game. And 5 of our lads, we have our reunion every June. At the end of every June, our battery reunion. It's quite a big affair,
Yeah.
And 5 of our lads are just finishing full terms in the police now. They've done the full term, serious crimes. Couple of sergeants, one was an inspector, and they're my only 2 regrets in life. Even if I'd have just had a go at the SS and failed it, or as long as I'd have had a go at it, a good go at it, but really regret that. But you can't turn back the clock, can you?
So what did you do when you left then?
Pardon?
What did you do when you left the army?
So, I worked at an RAF base. What happened was, so I tried teaching people to drive heavy goods, and I hated it, absolutely hated it. And then, have you ever seen these great big rear end loader bin skip wagons where they tip the skip in the back of the wagon?
Yeah.
I drove one of them for a short time, and it was a cracking job. It was so well paid, it was unbelievable. Anyhow, I went into this RAF camp close to us and got talking to this guy. And he said, why don't you come work here? He says, I'll get you on as the sales driver to start with. He said, and I've got plans for you. I said, well, what are the plans? He said, well, I'm having a lot of trouble with some of the staff in the guard room. It's a big guard force. He said, well, I want somebody to run it, run it all. And I went, oh, do me nicely. The guy who was retiring was an ex-RSM, guards RSM.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, I'll do that. So anyway, I jumped into it and cracking job, brilliant. 5 days a week, 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. Brilliant job. I had 20 lads. Half of them I got rid of, filled the guard room full of ex-squaddies. Never had a problem after that. Absolutely brilliant. We had it running like clockwork, honestly. The RAF loved us. Everyone left us alone. And then...
So they had civvies doing the gate? That's...
Yeah. So what happened from that is a company called Serco. You know Serco.
Yeah.
Serco. So what happened from then is, I've been there 9 years. And I used to be the first aid cover, so I had the ambulance with me. It was, the ambulance, the army ambulances, the Land Rovers. It was one of them, and that used to be with me at all times when I was in at work. And anyway, aircraft crash, squadron leader, and a young girl student, 19 years old, dead. Arrows in the head, brown bread. I piles over in the ambulance, couldn't do anything for them. They were a mess. But the girl, using the suction, we brought the girl back. She goes to hospital. She dies 5 days later. So the RAF said to Serco, where were your paramedics? And the Serco said, whoa, hang on. You haven't got paramedics in the contract. You've only got first aiders. And they went, well, that's no good. So, well, that's what you asked for, and that's what we give you. So they said, right, no good. We need paramedics. Volunteers, 6 of you to go down to Stoke, do a proper paramedics course. I said, I'll go. You're paying for it. I'll go. Went on the course. 3 of them, three failed, 3 passed. I come second on that course. I was really chuffed. And then I was sat in my guard room a couple of weeks later. Got a tip off from a mate of mine in the Ascension Islands saying, a director from Serco's going to ring you. They need you out there. You're the only one who's got paramedic and air transport security managers qualifications. They are getting charged £1,000 a day by the RAF because they're not filling the post out there. So anyway, put the phone down. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, phone goes, hello, Sean speaking. Yeah, this is Mr. Blah Blah from Hook in Hampshire, Serco headquarters. Yeah, can I help you? Yeah, we'd like to go and live out in the Ascension Islands. No, I don't think so. Thank you very much. Whoa, hang on a minute. Had this conversation. So I said, what's the working week? 16 hours a week, right on the equator. I said, is it tax-free? He went, yeah, tax-free. He said, well, how much would you ask for if you were to go and live out and work out there? So I said, I wouldn't do it for any less than 60 grand, which was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he went, done. When can you be there? So I'll be there Friday. I was on a Tuesday. There was a car in front of the guard room in an hour, and I was gone. Come Friday, I was on a Bryce Norton on a plane to the Ascension Islands, working out there. So I worked out there, doing this in charge of the terminal, the air terminal out there, and then got made redundant after a couple of years. And came back to England. And then I thought, I need to do something with my life. I'm still young enough. And I got into health and safety with this company that I was working for. They went from 1 employee to 4,000 employees overnight. No health and safety cover. Boss come in, do you want to go and do a NEBOSH course? And I said, yeah, if you're paying for it, I'll do it. I said, what's NEBOSH? He said, health and safety. Said, yeah, I'll do that. Jesus Christ, got on this course Monday. I wish I hadn't, Anyway, just advanced through me health and safety qualifications. And so I'm a health and safety business partner for a housing association over in Birkenhead.
Yeah.
I look after about 250 technicians of all building construction trades. Good job. Really enjoy it, Really.
So what were the Ascensions like then? Living there for a bit.
So you had this little island, 7 miles by 8 miles, right on the equator, scorching hot all the time. You had the nearest island was St. Helena, which was 700 miles away. So you had St. Helenans, British, the American emergency American NASA site is on there as well. The Yanks were great out there, really, really good. A bottle of Budweiser was 20 pence. A packet of fags was 20 pence from the PX. And I smoked at the time. I don't smoke now, but and you could buy a 40-ounce steak for about $10. What more did you need? It was absolutely fantastic. Really, really good. Never took your car keys out of your ignition. Never locked a door. There was just no crime on there whatsoever, although there was a police force of 2. It was just fantastic. It was amazing,
I've been there for about, I think it was about 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, you'd have been stuck in the cage then, would you?
We flew down to do, I think, what do they call that exercise? I think it was called sea trout or something like that. Where you go down to do the Falklands for like the month and a half or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And we flew down RAF down into the Ascension. So obviously it refuels there, get off. And it was early 90s.
On a tri-star, yeah.
Well, they just brought the ban in for smoking on the RAF flights.
Oh.
We used to be able to smoke on them years ago, and then they brought the ban in. And this was like our first time we'd been on a plane long haul that you couldn't smoke. And there was guys sat in the seats with the blankets over their heads, like having a fag underneath, and the RAF stewardesses were coming along and whipping this blanket off. There was plumes of smoke in it. And then we landed at the Ascension Islands, and I shit you not, we were walking down the stairs, lighting fags up while they were refueling the plane. And everyone was going, "You can't put them out." Like, fuck off, and smoking. So we all got off the plane and lined up to have this, smoke break and that. And everyone was like, "Well, where do we get our passports stamped?" So we're not coming through. So we made the RAF guys stamp all our passports to the Ascension Islands and that. We were only there for a couple of hours back on the plane, and off we went again. And I thought even going back there on the way back.
Yeah. I had a scream. There was 6 SAS lads there. And I'll never forget one of them called Cliff. He was only a short guy. And because I was ex-army and they're army, we just hit it off. And they were unbelievable, these 6 lads. They really were unreal. And God, we used to party hard, And they'd be drinking till 5 a.m. Then I'd be a mess, and I'd get one of the girls to pick me up in the Land Rover, and I'd be driving to, I wouldn't be driving. They'd be driving to work, and that was the other thing. There's no drink driving laws there as well. So anyway, and I'd be seeing the guy, Cliff, who had just been drinking with, running round the island 3 times, and then, one night he'd say, it'd be, I don't know, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, he'd say, "Oh, Sean, are you coming down to the airhead tomorrow?" He says, "I'll be flying." And I said, "Oh, you flying out?" He said, "No, I'm flying." And I went, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'm flying the Charlie 130. And I went, "You mean you're in the passenger seat?" Oh, he said, "No, I'm flying, honestly." And it gets down there, a right mess the next morning. Then he is waving out the window to me, and he's flying the aircraft. They do them short landings and then quick takeoffs. And he's bloody flying the aircraft. He must have been absolutely hammered, Oh, it's funny. And the RAF officer, the duty officer, coming on, "Right, guys, we're going to have to shut the bar now." And I said, "Sir, can I just have a word with you?" I took to us, I'd leave them, so I'd let them have the drink. They're quiet enough, just leave them in the car. He said, why should they be different than anyone else? I said, they're not different than anyone else. I said, but, the 6 SAS lads having a drink like that. And he went, "Well, I don't give a toss with you." I said, "I'd just leave it." Anyway, this wing commander heard, and he'd come over and he grabbed this young flight lieutenant and pulled him out of the way and said, "Just let me carry on. They're all right. Let them have the drink."
How did they fucking go over?
They were going out the terminal. They were flying down to the Falklands. They carry everything in the bag, can't they? And so we let them come through first. So I can search the bags in my team. So they come through, and Cliff comes first, and I built up a cracking rapport with him. Anyway, as he stands in front of me, I says, "Is this your bag?" And he went, "Yes, it's my bag." I said, "Did you pack it yourself, sir?" And he went, "Oh, God Almighty." He said, "Yes, I did pack it myself." I said, "Have you left it alone at any time since you packed?" "No, I haven't left it." He said, "Just get on with it, will you?" I went, "Do you mind if I have a look in your bag?" He said, No. He's looking nice, going, Anyway, so I opens this bag, this holder, right? There's a 9mm pistol, but there's a Wham CD, right? Wham, right? So all his mates are in the queue behind getting frustrated because they want to get through to the cage, So I grabs the CD like that, and I just held it up in my hand like that while I'm searching through the bag. And all his mates are going, "You tosser." Yeah. And he looks at me, this Cliff, he goes, "I'll see you on the way back." Wham CD, fantastic. Oh, it's brilliant. Fantastic. I could write a book about the Ascension Islands,
It sounds like there's one in you. Why not?
Oh, honestly. CO and his wife always went to the front, when they were flying out back to the UK.
Yeah.
One of my security staff, a girl, she was ex-RAF. She was funny, Helen, but she was a hard girl, She took no messing off anybody. And anyway, he said, I want to search the CEO's wife's bags, I said, crack on, So stands in front and asks her all the questions, and the CEO's wife's all prim and proper, while the CEO stood next to her. She goes, right, if we can just put your bags through the rapid scan. So they put a suitcase on, and she went, whoa. So she pulls the bag back through the rapid scan. She goes, Sean, she calls me over, so I go over, looked at the screen, and there's a vibrator on the top of the clothing, And I went, what are you going to do? And she went, watch. So she took the bag off and and of course there's 100 odd people in the queue behind her, and she did exactly the same. She went, oh, sorry, miss, I just wondered what this was, that's all, and held it and shook it up in the air like that, and everyone's going like that. Look at that. CEO's wife's got a vibrator. Oh, it was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious, Fantastic. Great times,
So going on from there then, so what, you touched on earlier about your friend saying you should have had a book in you and stuff like that. How long was the process of that, actually writing it and stuff?
Well, it's a funny old thing, actually, because obviously there's no time scales, you work to your own, but when something's in your head, and I could remember all the dates and times and what have you, and detail and that took me 2 weeks to type, from in my head to, I was doing like 18,000 words a session, and because it's in your head, it's easy. It's when you have to research things that it's hard. Anyway, so I did 1 million words, gave it them in 2 weeks, and they went, what the? It's too big, So of course I had to edit. So 2 weeks to type it, to get it from me starting to get it published, a year.
That's very quick, really, isn't it?
Yeah, each one of my books has taken a year, except for the children's book that I did this Christmas. That's my first children's book.
I'd seen that on Facebook.
Yeah, Munkarot. Yeah. That was my first children's book. That I'd already written that a few years ago, but done nothing with it. So that was a lot shorter process, probably about 4 months for that, really.
And a very different writing style.
It's totally different. What happened there was I came out of the army, and I don't know why, I was writing a load of poetry. It was rubbish. I'd written about 200 poems, but they were all in little books and in newspapers as it was then, and all over. And anyway, what happened is they just opened the Channel Tunnel, and I got made redundant from the Ascension Islands, came back to live in Southport, and stayed at my sister's till I got on my feet, got sorted. Anyway, they opened this Channel Tunnel. My sister said, hey, they're doing this bus. I was a smoker then, So she said, they're doing this bus down to France through the tunnel, and get your duty frees and come back. It leaves from the town centre, 23 hours all round trip. It leaves on Saturday night, 11 o'clock. So I went, oh, you up for it then? 20 quid, I think it was the fare then, I said, yeah, I'm up for that. I said, come on, we'll go to the pub first. Anyway, we're in the pub at tea time. By the time this coach pulls up at 11 o'clock at night, Saturday night, we're absolutely destroyed. Gets on this coach. Next thing you know, this driver's waking me up at this hypermarket in France. We're here. And I went, well, where? He goes, we're here at the hyper for your duty freeze. And I went, oh, right, okay. So anyway, used the toilet, went into this hypermarket, got my duty freeze, threw him back in the coach. And then I'm thinking, hang on, I've got 12 hours now sitting here with nothing to do. And I took my pen out, my little paper, and I wrote 6 of the best poems I'd ever written. And one of them was this half a monkey, half a parrot. So I called it a Munkarot, right? And I don't know where it came from. It was just this character. And so I wrote this poem. Anyway, fast forward to when I got to know David Richardson, the TV director.
Yeah.
He said, let me have a look at that poem. So anyway, I gave it him. Unbeknown to me that, exactly what he was doing at that time. And he said, could you write down on a piece of paper what it actually looks like? And I said, yeah, possibly. So I got two A4 sheets of paper of exactly what it looked like, this thing. And I gave it to him and never thought no more of it. I thought that was the end of it. And then there was a comic a few years ago called The Dandy, the Dandy comic. And the lead illustrator was a guy called Andy Fanton. Fantastic drawer. He used to do all the drawings for the Dandy comic. He was a mate of David. So David had sent him this write-up of this Munkarot without me knowing. So I opened an email one day entitled Munkarot, thinking, oh my God, someone's nicked me Munkarot, you know?
Yeah.
Because that happens a lot in this game. So anyway, I clicked on this drawing and there it was in front of me. And I went, oh my God, what the, where's this come from? Anyway, I looked into it and of course David had, and he got it absolutely bang on. So anyway, I was with this woman at the time, got divorced from her, but in the meantime, we'd had a couple of sessions on the beer, and I got a few ideas of what I wanted to write about it. And it was all good things in life, you know, about anti-bullying and eating fruit and veg and all that kid stuff. And anyway, I put 6 short stories together, and I just parked them up because I started writing all the big boys' books. And anyway, my missus said, you should really publish that, you know. And I thought, well, you know what, I'll have a look into it. The problem with children's books is there's that many sharp publishers out there. You've got to be really careful. So I went to a mate of mine who owns a bookshop. I said, really struggling with this. I said, first of all, I can't find this Andy Fontan, so I need an illustrator. And I said, and secondly, I need some advice and guidance where to go. I said, if it was big boys' books, I know all the little pitfalls now and everything, but children, he says, I've got just a company for you, a company called Talk Publishing. Puts me in touch with this woman, and she was absolutely amazing. She said, I've got just the illustrator for you. And the minute she sent me one of her drawings, I went, that's it. That's the illustrator, you know, and just married up. And within a few months, it was ready, you know. Yeah. Except for next one, my missus, she wants her next. She's going to help me write the next one. So I started writing a book called Soldier B with PTSD. My next one in that series.
Oh, the Guns and Grenades one, yeah.
Yeah, so I did about 30,000 words. So I'm going to have to park that up now and do the next Munkarot book with my missus. Well, I don't have to, but it sounds a good thing to do because the stories come from when you're having a few beers at night. So, yeah.
So the other thing that I found out that you do is the radio station as well. How did you get into that?
Yeah, so the radio station is called Mighty Radio, as in the Mighty Quinn.
Yeah.
So the original owner, a guy called Dave Quinn, he was partnered with it with another guy. He came to me and he's got a massive security firm, doing really, really well, turning over about £30 million a year. He came to me and he said, Sean, he said, I wouldn't trust anyone else with this. I think it was a sales pitch, but there you go. He said, I wouldn't trust anyone else with this. He said, do you want to buy my half of it because I haven't got the time for it? And I said, I looked into it. I was already doing a show on there, and I said, do you know what? I will do. And what was happening at that time is Heart Radio were going around buying all the frequencies and buying all these radio stations. And I thought, you never know. If I buy this radio station, Heart Radio might come along and say, there's £1 million. Because the frequency is 107.9 FM, which is a good frequency to have, you know. So you just never know what happens in the future. But it wasn't the reason I bought it. But the idea is when I retire, which hopefully is never, but when I retire, I'll get stuck into it a little bit more, put a bit more effort into it, you know. But yeah, 30 presenters, community radio station.
Do you get many listeners?
Yeah, we don't do bad. And we've just opened that's FM and online, but we've just opened a DAB and online Mighty Radio in Leeds as well.
All right, okay.
So we're in Leeds as well, and we're hoping to open one in Preston as well. So it's going really well. So we're only allowed to have 2 paid employees. So the other director, the other owner, and the station producer, who's a very switched on lad, a very clued up cookie. They're the 2 that are on the payroll. The rest of us are volunteers, if you like. So don't take anything from it. Yeah.
No, it doesn't really matter if it's something to do. It's like me doing this, really. I'm not paid for it. I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm just the thing I'm getting out of this personally is I've found that I'm getting comments coming in from people who've just basically said, I'd forgot about the things that had happened before. I'm listening to your story, listening to their stories. I'm remembering things that happened before, and people are listening to, they want to know. One of the things people want to know is how people have fared once they've left the army. What stories has come as that. So as much as people want to listen to the stories of people in, the antics we got up to in the army and people's careers as well, how they progressed through the ranks or they didn't. As in my case, I only got out as a full screw after many, many years. But they want to know what's happened to people afterwards as well. And it's such a varying degree of, even up to now, the people I've interviewed, it's such a varying degree of what people have gone into. It's crazy. I mean, you wouldn't have thought while you were sat in Mansa Barracks that one day you were going to be writing a book and presenting a radio station.
No, never in a month Sundays. And, that's only part of my life. My job's a big thing as a health and safety business partner. I'm very big on my motorbikes. I've got my motorbikes I love in the garage. I've got a big Merc Sprinter camper van, which we try and use as much. Me Alsatians, my dogs are my life, and I suppose I better mention the kids as well while I'm at it, So
I like the priority of that.
Oh yeah. So I have a really busy, active life. I'm a member of Fee's a member of the CrossFit gym, so I go every night as well. I do my own thing, my weights and what have you, and I walk at 6 o'clock, 5 kilometers every morning. So there's that much going on in my life. I could never see myself retiring. I love my job, absolutely love it. It pays really well. I don't work hard, so why would I pack it in? So, and it allows me to do what I want when I want. So it's a fantastic company to work for. They're a proper people's company, and it's took me since leaving the army to 3-4 years ago to find this company. So I've not come across a company like this. They're absolutely amazing. So why would I retire? I'm in reasonably good health. I broke my knee a couple of years ago, and it's grown a cyst on the meniscus pad inside my knee, and I'm waiting for an operation on that. But other than that, I'm fit as a fiddle. I feel, So, life's really good. But I do need to start trying to look at time and we do so much for charities. We do the kids' Christmas toys every year. We collect about 1,200 toys for the Christmas kids every year. We run the reunions for the last few years in Southport. That's a big job. All the street parties here we run. So we never stop. We're never stopped. But that's the way we like it.
You should get your Sprinter van down to Doncaster in June. Go to the fire mission.
I'm going.
You're going, are you?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed I'll see you there. I'll grow old and say, I'm that weirdo who rang you up round night type of thing.
Oh, no. Well, I'm taking my books as well. And I said, yeah, of course.
Never miss as well.
Yeah. Well, Dane, what's his name? The guy who passed away. So I'm gonna put half the proceeds to his wife because they're doing a bit of a collection for his wife, aren't they? So I'll put half of it to that because I've got a library in the back there, and I'm a conceited bastard. I really am. It's full of my books, my library. There's about 3 or 4 of someone else's books, but on the whole, it's all my books, I'll be taking, and I've got a shed out there with probably 20,000 books in there. So yeah, they sell quite well, you know. And do you know, with books, it's really strange because if you wanted to make a lot of money out of them, you could do if
Yeah.
you put the time in to market them and push them. And but
Yeah.
I don't do it, you know. I just leave them and let them sell, and every month Amazon drop a check through your door and well, send your money to the bank, and that's how it works, you know. But you can see that if I have a month where I want to put a bit of effort into marketing them, you could do quite well out of them.
Yeah.
The ebooks sell really well on Amazon. And I think it's a numbers game. The more you get, you know, it's just more for people to
It's
look
getting
at.
your name out there as well. So I mean, there'll be people who
Yeah,
listen to this who won't have heard of you.
yeah,
So I mean, what I was going to say earlier before we started recording is one of my mates who had, because of doing this, I got back in touch with him and hadn't spoken to him for like, I don't, God, it was nearly 10 years. I hadn't seen him for 20 years almost. And I says, "Oh, I'm open to interview Sean Connolly," and he was like, "Because I know that name." And so I mentioned to him. He goes, "Oh yeah, I've read his books." I was like, right, okay, so you are reading them. So,
yeah. I'm made up. I love it when that happens, or when someone taps me on the shoulder and said, "There's a lady at the gym. She's an elderly lady." She said, "This book, Surrogate Fathers, that was I was writing this right. I was writing this one. That was my second book,
yeah,
and all the time I was writing it, you know, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because that's when I do my writing. This was niggling me. It was on my shoulder like a devil, you know, a
yeah,
demon. And this was the one where I got really emotional with this, where my dad used to beat us up when we were a kid, and you know the nasty times during junior leaders. You know, some of those times, and that's my grandson on the front, by the way. But yeah, it was a time. What was I saying then? Oh yeah, that's right. So I'd written that, and the first page, David told me this. He said, "You've got to get him in the first page. That's your hook, you know." And I wrote this page, the first page, and it's where I come home from school. My dad used to fix a lot of cars, you know, and he built this Triumph Spitfire, and he's underneath it, and he said something like, "Pass me that spanner," or whatever it was, and I said something like, "Why?" Well, that was it. Out the car, and he punched me in the face, square on in the face. And I woke up on the couch in the living room, and my face was a mess, you know. And this woman said to me at the gym, she said, "I read that page." And she said, from reading that page on Friday afternoon, I didn't put the book down until Monday morning. She said, I couldn't let it go. And that to me was one of the biggest compliments
yeah.
I've ever had. She says, I read a lot of books. And she said, that was by far one of the best books I've ever written. I went, that'll do for me. You know, I said, go and put
That's
that
good.
on Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, get on there, leave a review, please.
Yeah.
The right, okay. I think we've come to the end of this one, then, Sean. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, I loved it, mate. Try and get to Fire Mission.
Yeah, I'm going.
And
I've never been
have
to
a
one
beer.
yet. And I did one of the guys who run it. I did a podcast with him a couple of weeks back,
Yeah,
so that he could push that as well and advertise Fire Mission. And I
yeah,
didn't really know anything about like what was running in the background there and stuff like that, and the stuff they do for charities and for the local food
yeah,
banks and stuff like that. And it was quite amazing to listen to it all. And watching on Facebook, there's more and more people are starting to get the word around. And obviously, it's getting closer. They're starting to push the word a lot more of it coming on, you know. And people can, if they can't get tickets, they can just turn up and pay on the gate and stuff like that. And
yeah.
it sounds like it's going from strength to strength. And
It's
I'm
my
really trying to
first
get down to
time.
this one.
Yeah, it's my first time, and my only regret of this is, and I'm not saying it because I'm under the thumb, is me and my missus. My missus is as bad as me, you know. So I think they should just let you take your partners as well if they want to go. I think I wish they'd open it up a little bit, and
Well, maybe it's the will in the future. I mean, it's
yeah, you know. But
again
I
for
respect.
a lot of the guys going there. It's
Yeah,
an escape. It's a battery smoker,
of
isn't it?
course
That's
it
what it
is.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is,
All
and
right.
you know. at the end of June, we have our battery. It's always the last weekend of June. We have our battery when she comes to that, no problem. Yeah. She goes away and does a CrossFit weekend. She doesn't mind me going at all, but her company is really good. She's wired the same as me. She knows how to have a good laugh. She'll get up on the karaoke and, she'll have the banter and everything. So, but I'm not disrespecting or anything, but it'd just be nice. And I asked Davey that a couple of years ago when they did the first one, but I thought, you know what, I'll go and give it a go this time.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of other 40 lads going as well. Let's see how it goes. Let's roll the dice and see what happens.
Yeah, we can only give it a go.
Couple of brats.
I'd just like to thank you for coming on and telling us about your story.
I've absolutely loved it.
That's like an hour that's just gone like that. You know what I mean?
We do the same on the radio, 3-hour show, and it's gone in the blink of an eye. But if you're ever in Southport, come this way, and you want to come on the radio, just give us a shout. We'll sort it out.
I don't think I've got the balls for that yet, mate.
You'd be like, well, if you get a minute on Saturday at 3:00, just go to www.mightyradio.co.uk and you can listen live at the show. So
we'll have I think I'll give that a go. Sorry, go on. Like I said, for anyone who's listened and got this far, there'll be links in the show notes for Sean's books and the link for the radio station as well, if you want to have a look over that and have a listen to the radio station or actually buy any of the books. So thanks for listening and thanks for being part of this one, Sean.
Thanks, mate.
See you later.
See you soon. Take it easy. Bye.
Right.